So welcome. The CPO series is where world-class chief product officers share their firsthand experiences in building products, building companies, and perfecting their craft. So I'm Christina from the Dragonboat team today as your host, and I am here with Sarah Owen, our CPO series guest speaker. So as people are rolling in, if you want to introduce yourself, let us know where you're joining from. I'm joining from Austin, Texas today, and I think Sarah is in NYC.
I am. Thanks, Christina. Austin is my favorite city, though.
I love it too, not biased. Alrighty, so we're going to get started in a couple minutes, but I wanted to go over a few housekeeping notes. So this is about a half-hour session, and it is going to be recorded and available on demand with all of our other CPO series webinars on our website afterwards. And if you have questions for Sarah as we go, you can submit them in the chat or the Q&A, and we will have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of this. And then we are very happy to be partnering with Women in Product for this event, really to help shape the future of product innovation and development. So their organization is a true champion in helping to advance the careers of women and non-binary individuals. So to learn more about advancing your career with them, please check out womenpm.org. And we are going to go ahead and get this started. Okay, so the CPO series is hosted by Dragonboat, and in case you didn't know, just a quick few words on Dragonboat. Dragonboat enables product leaders to accelerate outcomes with a suite of products for road mapping, portfolio management, and strategic planning. So you can check out dragonboat.io/CPO to learn more. And now it is my pleasure to officially introduce Sarah, our guest speaker for today. So Sarah has over 20 years of experience driving innovation in the fintech space, and she's currently the Chief Product Officer at One Inc., responsible for leading the product strategy, design, and user experience teams to deliver against the company's roadmap. So prior to joining One Inc., Sarah was the SVP of Consumer Engagement Products at TSYS, with additional senior leadership roles at WorldPay, Heartland, and First Data Corporation. So Sarah, we are so delighted to have you here today.
Thank you, Christina. I'm super excited to be here. I think, thank you to Women in Product and Dragonboat. When I was starting off my product career, I did not have these resources, and I think it's wonderful that we have built a product community that we can learn from each other and learn best practices, learn from mistakes and successes. So if you want to go to the next page, Christina. So I wanted to come and talk about strategic planning and how important it is for your product's success. It's kind of, if you don't know where you're going, how are you going to get there? And from what I have experienced, there are usually way more opportunities or things that you could do than the resources that you have to get them done. I love this quote by Jeroen de Vlaanderen, one of the world's great business strategists, that you cannot be everything to everyone. If you decide to go north, you can't go south at the same time. So I know there are all kinds of quotes about how to focus, but I liked that one. So I'll go through today kind of what is strategic planning, who you need or who needs it, where does it start, how does it trickle through the company, and then move into prioritization and what you really need to do to get buy-in for that prioritization and have it be accepted throughout the company. So next slide. So before I started, I did want to hear a little bit from you because I want to make sure to try to touch any points that you want to hear about. So I wanted to know if you could share what is your biggest struggle with strategic planning and what do you want to get out of this presentation? If you can put it in the chat, that would be fantastic. And if we don't have any, okay, awesome. How to start engaging stakeholders. People cannot tell the difference between strategy and strategic planning. I think that is true. Defining measurable outcomes and success metrics, prioritization, making sure the right people are involved to prioritize efficiently. I think I cover most of this. Maybe not defining measurable outcomes, but I'll see if I can weave that in and maybe have a follow-up session. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So thank you guys very much. Appreciate that. So I do think that, from a difference of strategic planning and strategy, from my perspective, the strategic planning is what goes into how to execute that strategy. But the benefits of that strategy it's really the focus, making sure that everyone at the company understands where you want to be and how you want to get there. So what I have found is that team members really want to be aligned. They want to understand how their contributions meet the company's objectives. And if we have that strategy and how to get there, just the company's going to band together and all move forward together. So strategic planning provides the focus and ensures that the entire company is focused on the right work. Again, there are so many there's so many ideas that are initiated from customers, from your internal customers, from the market, that if you can't attack all of them. You have to figure out which ones are going to make the biggest impact and which ones align with your strategy. Strategic planning allows for proactive development rather than reactive development. And I've seen this where if you don't know where you're going, then all of a sudden, whatever needs to get built to close the next contract is what gets built, whether or not that drives the overall product forward. That there's a case for that, and there's a time for that if you're in a startup environment, but you quickly need to move into long-range planning and how does anything that you're building impact the overall product in a good way. And then aligning your roadmap with the company strategy ensures that the roadmap and product is delivering value for the client and that you're supporting the business needs. And so this is a way to get everyone to champion the product roadmap. And then I will say that I have moved, and actually Wanting as well has moved to a strategic theme-based product roadmap that allows you to adapt to customer and market needs, and it focuses on the outcome rather than the output. And we can talk a little bit about that, but if you've ever been in a situation where you end up having a feature-based roadmap, I think a lot of folks in our industry end up calling that like a Frankenstein product because it's just features that are bolted on to the product and that aren't necessarily solving the overall problems and creating an aligned product. And then these strategic goals become the guardrails that you can use to prioritize work and again keep the entire company aligned. And what I have seen is, especially when you have shared resources, meaning we have one development team and we might need to use that development team for product development, for technical debt, and potentially even delivery and implementation. The company is going to stay aligned if you are all working toward those same goals. And it's proven that companies with a written business plan and strategy grow 30% faster. So it's in everyone's best interest to do this. Go to the next slide. So I will say, in my experience and talking to others, it really, strategic planning isn't necessarily one size fits all. I think there are different needs depending on the size and phase of your company. So for example, at a startup, you really need to make sure that whatever you are building is what your customer wants and that you're solving a problem. You need to be able to react quickly. And so often you're focused on really more of a short-term focus. What are you going to develop in the next 1 to 2 quarters, and ensuring that you're meeting your clients' needs. I will also say I have been at 2 startup companies kind of earlier in my career, and I think that there's the number of employees impacts this as well. So if you're under 30 folks, and you can either, in the times when we were working out of the office, all get together in a large conference room or in the lunch area and meet every day to talk about what you're doing and where you're going, and or now even on a stand-up video call. It's much easier to stay aligned and make sure that you're moving in the right direction. But again, that startup, it's building something, start selling it, and get fast feedback. In the mid-sized growth area, which is where I am now, I will say that I've spent most of my time in the mature company areas, companies that have been around for a while and 20,000 employees plus. But in the mid-sized growth company, and I'll tell you, it is a very fun place to be. But this is really where I think strategy and focus becomes very important. You're growing so quickly that you do have a lot of input and a lot of opportunity. You need to make sure that you are focused on the right things. So this is where you can start getting into the 12 to 18 month plan. And again, it's not only what are you going to do, what do you want your company to be in 18 months, and where do you want it to be? It's how are you going to get there? And more importantly, what are you not going to do? What markets are you going to focus on? Which markets are you not going to focus on? And, you can't let the shiny object always redirect you. There's a time when it can, but you need to really stay focused. And then what I've seen in more of a mature organization where you have a successful business, this is where you have multiple product lines. So where a portfolio strategy starts to become even more important, but you're focused on how are you going to expand your business? Are there new markets or new verticals or new add-on products that you should be looking at? And it's also where you start looking at product exit strategies. Are there products that no longer support your business goals that need to be, look at being sunset? And interesting in a larger organization, it's critical to have that strategy at the very top that then the different business organizations can see how they fit in supporting that product strategy. So next slide. Okay, and I do see a couple questions. I'll see if I can get to those in a minute. So strategy starts at the top. I have been in situations where I have tried to build a product strategy without having the business strategy. And quite frankly, it just doesn't work because you need the product strategy needs to support the business strategy. So if the business strategy happens to change, or if the markets happen to change, then, and it's not documented, then product is really just reacting to, the pivots that the business makes instead of having that North Star, which we are, all focused on moving towards and achieving. So that North Star, and I'll say that, there are different types of grounding documents. Your company might not have all of them. They might have a North Star, which is, we do, and it's something that has been really, really beneficial in that. So for example, our North Star is we're in the insurance payment space. We have the largest insurance payments network in the country, and our North Star is simply driving more digital transactions, digital payment transactions. We actually have a number associated with that, but I won't share that right now. But it's really allowed us to just align and focus, and everything that we do, you ask yourself, does it help achieve that North Star? But you may have a North Star, it might be a business vision, it might be a mission, or some combination of those. And so then the business strategy is, next bullet, is how your company can focus on actually achieving those business vision and mission. And then once we have that solidified, that's when the product team can really get together and provide a aspirational outcome. And this really is, who are your clients? What are you delivering to them? And why are your product set up to differentiate and do that differently and really capture the market by how you're doing that? And then the product strategy driven from that is, how are you going to achieve that vision? What markets are you going to go after? What features or what problems are you going to solve? And what features are you going to build to solve those problems? And then your product roadmap is really a living document that's a plan on how to meet that product strategy. So I'll talk a little bit about the difference of an outcome-based product roadmap. So instead of looking at a specific feature, and I'll give an example of when I was at TSYS and we were revamping the overall digital engagement platform for a card holder, a credit card holder. And this was the user interface that a financial institution, a bank, could leverage our tool to allow consumers to go in and manage their credit cards. So think of like the Amex application. Rather than having a roadmap that is specifically add user login credentials or add SSO so that the bank app can seamlessly allow a consumer to access this digital engagement platform. Rather than being that specific, an outcome-based roadmap would simply say, make the user login experience elegant or easy or simple. And then that allows your product team working with the design team and the development team to understand and figure out the best ways to do that. Is it SSO? That's probably a good idea, but are there other options? Are there other design elements? Are there other things that you want to bring to market? It just allows you to have more flexibility and more leeway for your team to come up with the best solutions. If you want to go to the next slide. So product planning and prioritization does not work unless you get stakeholder buy-in. And I err on the side of over communication and over inclusion. I think that we as product owners, if we do not have that muscle, we really, really need to stretch it. So some of the things that go into that product planning, again, ideas intake. So I highly recommend having a forum where, anyone in the company can provide ideas, and then those client-facing internal employees can also bring client ideas to the ideas intake. We actually do this every Friday, and it's a great way to build alignment, understand, the needs within the company. A lot of those come from customer service, again, from client-facing folks, and it feeds into the product roadmap, and it allows you to even group those ideas and align them with a problem to solve. Once you get those ideas and decide what you're going to move forward with, and again, we take those ideas and we put them into what problem are we going to solve. That's where we go into discovery, develop prototypes, go and work with the market, work with customers, validate that we are solving a problem, validate that there is a business problem and that it's beneficial both to the clients, the business, that it's solving one of the problems for the strategy, that it's financially viable and technically viable. And then once you get all of that, I like to go back to get stakeholder input before you go into prioritization. So this is where you're showing them what is going up for prioritization, making sure that there's nothing that has come to market that has, that's a bigger need that, still fits with your strategy, but might need to be tackled first. And then taking all of this to prioritization. And I am going to share over the next couple of slides what I've seen really work. And I will say that I have been going through different prioritization methods and strategies over the past 20 years. And I think that finally have gotten to a place where I found something that works, and that's, been a team effort and multiple team efforts. So a prioritization framework, meaning how are you going to score those initiatives? I quite frankly think that you can use various types. You can use and various types, whether it's a RICE model where you're looking at risk, impact, confidence, and effort, or the Moscow model where you're looking at what should have, won't have, could have, must have. There are various models, and I think pick your own one, but I highly recommend picking the simplest. I've launched ones that require various equations, and I've seen those not get adopted as ubiquitously. I will say that Dragonboat does have a fabulous solution that does allow you, once you are looking at your portfolio, you're implementing various product ideas, problems to solve, and then drilling down into the features. It supports multiple prioritization frameworks right in that tool. So the next slide. So this is what I think is very important. I think that often when you're looking at planning, sometimes you start at that 12 to 18 month roadmap, and then most companies do move, and then that's looked at. Probably best case scenario would be in November, December, before you get to your financial planning, so that you can make sure what's important to you gets into that financial plan. That generally, if you've adopted an agile methodology and are looking at quarterly program increments, that then turns into a quarterly planning scenario. And so what we do is, before we go into quarterly planning with the development team, we make sure that our stakeholders and our executives understand what is being prioritized. So that has proven to be extraordinarily helpful. But then we have added another monthly check. And this is what I have found has really created alignment. And it is, and I'll show you kind of what we do on the next slide, but we meet with the stakeholders and executives monthly to remind them what went into the quarterly program increment planning, what's up next, and most importantly, what is below the line. So I have used this below the line tactic probably at the last 3 companies that I've been at to clearly articulate what is in and what is out. Next slide, please. And I'll try to go very quickly to allow for questions. So this is actually a sample of kind of the format that we use to go through with the executives what we are working on, what is in discovery, and then that bottom square is what I call below the line. So making sure that stakeholders and executives know what you are working on and what you are not working on allows alignment. And most importantly, it prevents that shiny object syndrome. I know that if I do not have this, I probably will get 20 new ideas from executives or clients, and they're expecting you to work on them right then, but you can't, because you want to stay focused on achieving the goals that you have set out. So next slide, please. Okay, these are just some of the resources I will be sending. Dragonboat will be sending a follow-up email. I have much more that I leverage, but these are just some that I use to kind of touch base with on kind of culminating these best practices. So over to you, Christina.
All right. Thank you so much, Sarah. That was a really insightful presentation. It was really great to hear from you. I love what you said about there's no one size fits all for this, but it's still nonetheless absolutely critical to drive focus at any organization. So thank you for your advice and perspectives. And we're going to start to wrap up here. I've got a couple more resources to share with you. So if you want to connect and continue the conversation with Sarah, her LinkedIn will be provided for you to connect with her there. And then I also wanted to share our partner Women in Products podcast series, which if you're here today, this will probably be of interest to you, but their podcast series is called The Path to CPO. And I highly recommend one of their most popular episodes with Alex Hardiman, the CPO of the New York Times. So Anna's going to help drop the link to listen to that episode in the webinar chat. And then lastly, you can get a free responsive product portfolio management certification and learn more about Dragonboat and get more resources for CPOs at dragonboat.io. And then we will kick off the Q&A shortly, but I wanted to just conclude lastly here by partnering with thousands of product leaders like Sarah. We've learned that they definitely need the right tooling for their teams to achieve their goals. So you can check out how Dragonboat can help your product teams by booking a free consultative demo at dragonboat.io/CPO. And now we've got some questions that came in from earlier, but if you still have a question for Sarah, we've got time, so leave it here. So Sarah, if you're ready, I'll start firing and throwing some questions your way.
I am ready, and I do want to reiterate, I love talking to my fellow product colleagues, so if you want to continue the conversation, as Christina said, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to connect and learn from you too.
Awesome. So one of the first questions, tactically and sustainably, how do you keep your roadmap aligned with strategy and stakeholders?
So tactically, so the way that we have our roadmap aligned, so we actually have a couple different levels. We start with a theme, and then we go to an outcome, and then we go to an initiative, and then to the feature. So what this means is all of our themes are broad-based. They last over 3 to 5 years. In our scenario right now, we are an insurtech, solving or allowing carriers to take premium payments and then also make really fast claims distribution. So one of our overarching themes is, a fantastic insured or claimants experience. So everything that we do from a product roadmap perspective under that theme would align with that. And then we would have outcomes that, for example, one might be, we want to move more consumer payments to digital channels. And so then as you go deeper and deeper in the roadmap, you always make sure that it's aligning back to the theme and the strategy. And we review that, we're reviewing that as a product team, any changes on a weekly basis. We are reviewing that, the overall roadmap. That's where we review with the stakeholders on that quarterly basis, and that feeds then into our product and development planning. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, I thought that was great. I love the outcome focused theme, and I thought that was helpful. So the next question is, can you elaborate? I think earlier when you were talking about the strategic theme-based product roadmaps.
That's right. And so I think I just covered that a little bit here as well. And that is, we like to start with theme as the highest level. So again, that level of theme would be, an excellent consumer or an excellent claimant or insured experience. And then from theme, you would go to outcome. And the outcome would be, what problem are you trying to solve, or what are you trying to deliver? And again, that in this scenario would be, moving paper transactions to digital transactions. And then from there, you go into what features are you going to build that will help you achieve that outcome. So it might be things in our scenario like add PayPal as a payment method, or add Apple as a payment method, or allow for recurring payments to be set up. So those are some examples of how you start with a theme, and the theme is aligned with a strategy, and then it trickles down.
That's really helpful, Sarah. So, another question is, how do you get the right people in the room for effective top down, bottoms up planning?
So I love this question. And we are, again, doing the bottoms up quite, all the time. We have the ideas session where we invite all of the functional leaders and then ask them to add members of the team or their teams. We have a company right now of about 600, and actually about 70 people join that ideas meeting each week. So very collaborative. I think it's important for the process to be known by everyone. So it is a good idea to outline your overall product development process and the places where you want stakeholder feedback. And then if you have like a all hands or an all employee session where even the CEO can help co-present and explain how important it is. I've seen that be very, very effective. And then on the top up or the top down planning, that is where we do have our monthly alignment with our executives. And then along with the key stakeholders, we make sure that everyone who is client facing support technology are invited. And then, believe it or not, actually, the team love, or our colleagues now love that meeting because they know what we're working on, not working on, and we're staying aligned. And they have a voice at the table that if something is really, really important and we have to change priority, that's where we discuss and see when the best time is to do that.
Okay, and we've got time for, I think, one more question here. So the last one is, Sarah, and kind of like your parting words, any advice on transitioning from a project mindset to a product mindset? Andrew says, we're trying to focus on outcomes, but stakeholders still see roadmaps as features on a Gantt chart.
I have been there many times, Andrew, and I am going to say that it is painful. Because it is changing the mindset. I think that you have to give a lot of examples of how it's worked in the market. And I think that you have to paint kind of the end goal. Where do you want to get or where do you want to end? And what problems are you solving for your clients? And somehow if you can put metrics associated with solving those problems, it helps that conversation. And what I've seen work, and it's really important to get some executive sponsors to help with this transformation. But I highly recommend that now, next, later roadmap. But then in the now is where you still, that's where you start to show the features because you do know, and the now, next, later, each one is about 6 months. At least that's what I see be very effective. And in that now, that's where you start to show these are the actual initiatives and features that are going into planning and development. And then as you are developing, you start to show the times and dates. I know it's difficult, but it is so well worth it when you can achieve it. And feel free to ping me.
Okay, this has been really helpful and insightful, Sarah. Unfortunately, that is all the time that we have for today, but I wanted to thank you again for being on our CPO series. And I'd also like to thank our partner, Women in Product, for partnering with us on this event. And I will wish the rest of you a happy rest of your day, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And thanks so much for joining.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Bye.